We're all human. We make mistakes sometimes. As long as we can recognize our mistakes and correct them in an honest, honorable, and effective way. Everybody has to participate in this ethical behavior here at the Villages Rehab. It's not an optional program. What will happen if we do not follow the program? It could result in termination of employment. We all have to have ethical behavior, make the right decisions. If we question somebody else's behavior, please report it. We want our residents, our family members, and our employees to be treated equally. What you guys all have in your hand, if you haven't received one or if we ran out, is our ethics and compliance manual for the Villages Rehab specifically. So I suggest everybody please just read over it. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to come see me, your manager, or Debbie. Our mission and values. We're dedicated to providing services that assist each and every resident in attaining and maintaining his or her highest practical, physical, mental, psychological well-being. We're committed to significant resources in promoting a cultural ethic behavior. I'm about to show you this video here. It's an in-service. The first few are questions. Let me get it. Everybody see it.
Now that we know what ethical standards are, let's take a look at what ethics can sometimes be confused with. Click each example to explore them. The terms unethical and illegal are often used interchangeably in the workplace, but are indeed quite different. Following the law is impersonal and requires no discernment, just compliance. Failure to comply with laws can result in serious penalties, like fines or prison. Ethics, however, are standards of behavior telling us how to act. Ethics are subjective and can vary from person to person. That's why it's important that organizations not only enforce compliance with the law, but also set high standards of ethical conduct and ensure all employees are on board. Religions can provide standards for ethical behavior, but those standards may differ across religions and may not cover every ethical decision a person may face. Feelings can be an important consideration in making an ethical decision, but ethical decisions can reach far beyond the feelings of a group or an individual. While the culture of an organization can promote ethical behavior, it can also do the opposite. There are many examples of organizations and business where the culture was unethical, which permitted or even encouraged individuals to act in an unethical manner. Science is helpful in understanding why people may act in a certain way, but it doesn't always provide the guidance on what should be done in a given situation. While common ethical standards of conduct do exist, they are not necessarily universal and differ between people, organizations, and even societies. Consider this scenario. Jesse is very familiar with a particular used car. It's a good car, but in desperate need of a tune-up. If the customer hears the long list of defects, it could jeopardize the sale, so there's temptation to only mention the car's strong points. This is an example of an ethical dilemma in which a person has to decide if they should act in a way that might help another person, but might also go against their own self-interests. This is where values come into play. Values are often learned at a young age and help to establish a personal standard of right and wrong. What would you do in Jesse's situation? Ethical standards of conduct don't only exist on a personal level. Drag the arrow down to each additional form of ethics to learn about them. ethics are ethical standards of conduct that are accepted and followed by an organization. Sometimes these differ from an employee's personal ethics. For example, perhaps Jesse is instructed to withhold information from customers to increase sales because honesty is not an ethical standard of the organization. Societal ethics refers to standards in a society of right and wrong, many of which are the common standards we discussed earlier in the course. Regardless of an employee's personal ethics or the ethical standards of the organization, companies have a duty to their clients and stakeholders to uphold the ethical standards of society. Because the types of ethical situations a person may face can differ based on their position, please answer a couple of questions to determine your role. So now that you have an understanding of ethical conduct as it relates to personal values, an organization, and society as a whole, let's explore how upholding high ethical standards can benefit your organization and employees. As a manager, you help determine the organizational ethics of a company, and your direct influence can have a large impact. Click on each benefit to explore them. Honest and fair management practices will typically lead to higher profitability for a company. Customers are willing to spend more money with businesses that they feel they can trust. So managers can expect a good reward by modeling ethical behavior and enforcing the organization's ethical standards to improve the company's performance. Not only are those happy customers willing to spend more money, they are likely to tell their friends and write reviews about their positive experience. This enhances a business's reputation in the industry and can drive in even more paying customers. Of course, the opposite is true as well. Unhappy customers who feel swindled can diminish a business's reputation through negative word of mouth and reviews. Studies show that managers that engage in and enforce ethical standards see higher productivity in their employees. Employees tend to be happier working under managers who adhere to and enforce ethical standards. As a result, those managers see higher retention rates among their employees. If an organization adheres to ethical standards, managers that fail to follow them are at risk for disciplinary and sometimes even legal action. Businesses that engage in unethical practices could face fines, penalties, and public humiliation through various media outlets. Employees look to their managers for guidance and direction and view them as the enforcers of company policy. So the words and actions of management reflect the moral and ethical considerations of the entire organization. That's why it's more important than ever that managers ensure their actions and behaviors are consistent with the ethical standards of conduct of a company. While the importance of ethical behavior in management is clear, sometimes making ethical decisions is easier said than done. There are, however, some simple steps you can take to ensure your actions and behaviors are consistent with the ethical standards of conduct of a company. Let's take a look at some situations to explore each of these in more detail. You often show up a few minutes late to work because traffic is always terrible on your route. Your employees have begun coming in a few minutes late as well. While you should discipline your employees for coming in late, you're the one setting the bad example. Employees look up to their managers as a role model. When a manager behaves a certain way, it sends a message to other employees that this sort of behavior is accepted. Managers must set an example for their employees, and actions speak louder than words. Any inconsistencies between words and behaviors are likely to have a negative impact on staff. Always lead by example. One of your employees comes to speak with you about a coworker. He wants you to be aware of some interpersonal issues they are having and simply get some advice on how to handle it.
What would you guys do? Call the coworker in, tell your employee, or listen to his or her concerns?
Good call. To build open trust and communication between you and your employee, the best option is to listen, offer advice, and let your employee know that you will step in to help him resolve the issue if it does escalate. You are under a lot of pressure to reach the sales goals for the month. Your employees keep coming up short. Good call. While the goal is to motivate employees, singling people out and using threats can often have an opposite effect. It all starts with management. To manage the company's financial capital and human resources responsibly, sales employees are under continuous pressure to achieve sales goals. Managers must manage that pressure so employees don't feel the need to abandon personal standards in order to meet the goals. Ensure employees know that sales goals are important, but not more than upholding ethical standards. While on a business trip for your company, you decide to visit a few friends in the area. You pay for their meals and drinks at dinner.
Which one? Business trip, let's go.
Not quite. Falsely expensing or submitting personal expenses while on business is an example of stealing from your employer. As a manager, it is your responsibility to follow company policies and procedures, which includes not stealing. Your employee recently went to the doctor with some back pain and was prescribed a strong painkiller for a week until it heals. He wants to continue work because he can't afford to lose a week's worth of pay. This is probably an okay option. Using drugs while driving is against the law. If he can manage without the painkillers, allowing him to work as long as he's not taking them on the job is an option as well. You are compiling a final quarter sales report. You are a little short of your goal for the year, which puts everyone's bonus in jeopardy. There are, however, some large deals that will close the start of next quarter. Yes. Though it may be tempting to write up next month's sales orders early in order to achieve a bonus, this is still inaccurate reporting and therefore is unethical. It's imperative that managers set metrics and report results accurately and honestly. It's important to be accountable, use accurate public disclosures, and uphold corporate record keeping. One of your good friends is applying for a position that you oversee. You think they would really be a great employee. This is probably the best option. Managers should always do what they can to avoid conflicts of interest. That could include fraternization, hiring relatives and friends, or accepting business gifts. You have an open position in your department. You've chosen the perfect candidate, but he's demanding a much higher pay than your current employees in the same role. Do you hire him anyway? Using decision models can help managers make a decision when facing an ethical dilemma such as this. The practical rule is based on what a typical person outside the company would think is acceptable, while the utilitarian rule focuses on making a decision that produces the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Take a look at this tool, which combines the practical and utilitarian decision models, and think back to the ethical dilemma. You want the best candidate for the job, but is it unfair to your other employees who have been with the company for years? Answer each of the questions to see if hiring that employee is an ethical decision.
Which one do you guys think, yes or no?
If answered honestly, the tool should have indicated that this is an unethical decision. While it doesn't harm anyone, it is unfair to employees who have been with the company much longer. Ethical values and norms help employees to resist self-interested action and realize they are part of something bigger than themselves. Managers have the unique ability to enhance this ethical culture by embracing these best practices on a daily basis. Now it's time to test your knowledge on ethics in the workplace.
Which of the following are ethical standards?
Fairness, individual rights, religion, culture. Are you? See. See what to do. Oh, okay. How do ethics differ across from all forms? Choose a description that best fits the personal ethics. A, B, or C? C?
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Okay, so I have established and determined by an organization, determined by values often established at a young age, ethical standards or of conduct accepted by an entire society. How does each ethic differ across all forms? A. Nope.
Yeah, now it says in a different question. Societal.
There we go. Which of the following are benefits of ethical conduct? Thought it was like the last one. Higher productivity, better reputation, lower retention, higher profitability, or legal problems? Better reputation? I know, that's what I would think too. So let's, okay, you've recently had a lot of your workplace injuries in your department. One of your employees suffered a minor injury today. Another workers' compensation claim in your department is going to look very bad for you. Choose the best approach. I hear you guys, but not very loud. You have the authority to expense $300 on your business trip for food. You've only spent $150 and the trip is almost over. That's $150 you have left. Choose the best approach. You spend what you need on food and you didn't go over the allotted amount, or you buy tickets to a sports game and expense it for food. I think that one's a no-brainer. Let's not spend the rest of the money. All right. You learn that the structure of your department is changing and some of your employees are not going to be happy about it. Even though the information is supposed to be confidential for now, your employees have started hearing rumors about it and asked you directly about what's going on. Choose your best approach. Tell them all the information that you do know, or tell them there's a certain matter you cannot discuss at this time. Okay. In what ways can our managers enhance the ethical culture of their organization? Let's select all that apply. Lead by example.
Yes.
Build trust and open communication.
Yes.
Manage resource responsibility.
Yes.
Uphold the law. Set metrics and report results. Avoid conflicts of interest. And use decision models. Okay, let's see. Well, we passed, but we got one that was wrong. Oh, you did not pass, I'm sorry. Please try again. So let's review it. We didn't hit all of the above on this one, we just put fairness. That's why, but I bet you if we hit all of them, we would have gotten it. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I'd like to talk a little bit, because it's come to my attention recently, about relationships in the facility and in the nursing home, in the rehab. Is it ever acceptable for an employee to have an intimate relationship with a patient? No. Thank you. Believe it or not, it has happened. Right. But is it now? Tell me again, though. Okay, so is it ever acceptable for a supervisor to have a relationship with a subordinate? No, that is not acceptable either. That is not acceptable either. I understand that things happen, people fall in love, somebody has to leave the company before they get involved. Because we don't want one person in a power position. Anytime somebody is in a power position can exert undue influence on others, then that's a problem. Is it ever a good idea for a patient to lend money to an employee?
No.
No. Or for even an employee to ask?
No.
No, never is. Nope. And if a patient tries to give us money, what do? Refuse it.
Oh,
right,
refuse.
exactly. We refuse it. All right. And if they want to do something for the neighborhood, they're welcome to talk to me, and they can do something for the whole neighborhood. But we can't take tips, we can't take offerings, we can't take cash for something that we've done. All right, any questions about that? All right, thank you guys. Be sure you sign in the sign-in sheet.